He thought throwing a bottle at a royal guard was just a joke. No harm, no foul, right? But when the police showed up, the crowd turned savage, and his legendary moment made him the most hated tourist in London. Things got ugly. 30 days, a courtroom circus, and headlines that would haunt him forever. And it all started with one bad decision. Let's break it down. London was alive with its usual tourist buzz, families posing for pictures, guides shouting directions, and pigeons playing the role of unofficial mascots. Right in the middle of it all stood Daniel, 28 years old, born and raised in Texas, with a devil-may-care attitude and a craft beer in hand. His friends, equally loud and overconfident, were nearby, laughing and filming every move he made. It was shaping up to be a morning to remember, or forget, depending on how much beer he kept downing. Daniel was feeling the vibe. 3 beers in, he was buzzing, energized, and absolutely convinced he needed to do something legendary to cement his place in tourist history. That's when he spotted him. The Royal Guard. Decked out in a red uniform and that iconic bearskin hat, the man was standing so still he could have been mistaken for a mannequin. "Hey, y'all," Daniel called out, waving his bottle for emphasis. "This dude hasn't moved an inch. What do you think it takes to make him crack?" His friends, always ready to stir the pot, cheered him on. "Come on, Daniel, do something funny." "Yeah, give him a taste of that southern charm." The crowd around him started to take notice, tourists pausing to watch what the loud American might do next. Daniel puffed out his chest, grinning like he was the star of a comedy special. He stepped closer to the guard, phone in hand, already recording. "Hey, Mr. Robot, you ever smile? Or does that helmet block your sense of humor?" he joked, his voice dripping with sarcasm. The guard didn't so much as blink. That stony British discipline was unshakable. The lack of response only egged Daniel on. The crowd was growing, phones were raised, and now it wasn't just his friends watching. This was the moment. "All right, folks, let's see if he's made of steel," Daniel declared dramatically. He lifted his beer bottle, holding it like a prize in a carnival game, and then, without so much as a second thought, he launched it. The bottle sailed through the air in a perfect arc. For a moment, it was almost beautiful. Crash! The sound of shattering glass echoed across the square. The crowd collectively gasped. Someone muttered, "Oh my goodness, did he just—" The guard moved, just a slight turn of the head, but it was enough. His cold, unblinking eyes locked onto Daniel's, and for the first time that morning, the Texan's grin faltered. "Dude, relax. It's just a joke," Daniel blurted, throwing his hands up defensively. His tone was light, but the murmurs in the crowd weren't. People were recording, whispering, pointing. His friends had started inching backward, clearly unwilling to be part of whatever came next. Then came the sound, the sharp, measured rhythm of boots on pavement. 2 more guards emerged, their presence as intimidating as their uniforms. They moved with precision, their expressions unreadable. "Guys, come on, nobody got hurt," Daniel tried again, his voice climbing an octave as the guards approached. His bravado was rapidly unraveling, and the crowd wasn't helping. Phones were everywhere, capturing every second. The guards stopped just a few feet away, their imposing figures towering over him. For the first time all morning, Daniel felt the weight of his actions. He glanced around, looking for an escape route, but the crowd had boxed him in. "Look, I didn't mean anything by it," he stammered, his confident drawl replaced with nervous babbling. But the guards didn't respond. They didn't need to. Their silence spoke volumes, and Daniel's gut told him one thing. This wasn't over. Daniel felt the tension rising as the guards closed in, their expressions a masterclass in silent disapproval. His bravado crumbled faster than a cookie at a summer picnic. Instinctively, he began stepping back, hands raised in surrender. "Hey, it's just a prank. Nobody got hurt," he pleaded, waving his arms like a man trying to shoo away bad luck. But the guards? Oh, they weren't having it. One reached out and grabbed Daniel's wrist with a grip that felt like it came straight out of a superhero movie. Another picked up Daniel's passport, which had conveniently fallen from his pocket during his flustered retreat. "You've got to be kidding me," Daniel exclaimed, yanking at his arm to no avail. "This is freedom of expression or something, right? Aren't we in the land of tea and democracy?" His attempt at humor landed flat, especially when he noticed the third guard pulling out a phone. The words "calling police" flashed across Danel's mind like a neon sign. Meanwhile, his loyal squad of friends? Gone. They melted into the crowd faster than ice in a hot drink. The crowd itself was the opposite, growing larger, cameras flashing, and whispers flying. Someone in the back muttered, "Typical tourist," and Danel swore he heard the words, "stupid American," tossed around more than once. The humiliation was settling in fast. Moments later, the police arrived. Their arrival was anything but subtle. Sirens blared, and their presence sucked the air out of the square. The officers approached Danel with the kind of seriousness reserved for major heists. Before he could launch into his defense, they were already patting him down. Whoa, is this really necessary?" Danel stammered, glancing nervously at the sea of phones recording every humiliating second. "I just threw a bottle. That's not exactly a crime, is it?" The officers didn't answer, but their disapproving glances spoke volumes. One grabbed his other arm and clicked handcuffs into place with the kind of finality that made Danel's stomach drop. The crowd erupted into a flurry of murmurs, a mix of pity, amusement, and judgment. Somewhere in the chaos, someone yelled, "This is going viral for sure," and Danel felt his face flush. Shoved into the back of a police car, Danel had plenty of time to stew in his regret as they sped toward the station. Once there, the real fun began. The officers wasted no time rifling through his belongings, inspecting his passport, and scrolling through his social media accounts. One of them even chuckled at his latest post, a blurry photo of Buckingham Palace with the caption, "Living my best life in London." The irony was almost painful. Things got worse when Danel overheard one of the officers say, "Looks like this is already online." Sure enough, within minutes, he was shown a video of himself, beer bottle in hand, delivering his infamous line, "Let's see if he's made of steel." The clip ended with the sound of shattering glass and the crowd's collective gasp. The comments were relentless, mostly from angry Brits calling him a disrespectful fool, and worse. As if that wasn't enough, one officer leaned back in his chair, scrolling through the clip again. With a dry smirk, he muttered, "Well, mate, you're definitely making tomorrow's headlines." Danel slumped in his seat, his earlier confidence long gone. What had started as a harmless joke had spiraled into something way bigger than he'd ever imagined. And now he was a trending topic for all the wrong reasons. Danel sat stiffly in the station's interrogation room, the weight of the situation sinking in. His lawyer, a middle-aged man with tired eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor, entered and immediately set the tone. "Mr. Danel," he began, dropping his briefcase on the table, "this is more serious than you seem to realize. It's not just a prank. It's being treated as an attack on a royal institution." Danel blinked, his confidence slipping fast. "An attack? On what? I threw a bottle. It was a joke, not some grand conspiracy." His voice rose, but the lawyer didn't flinch. "Joke or not, the law here doesn't see it that way," the lawyer said bluntly. "You're looking at charges of aggravated misconduct, and the prosecution won't hold back. Jail time and a hefty fine are very much on the table." Danel's hands clenched the edges of the table. He felt the room closing in. Desperate, he pulled out his phone and tried calling his friends, but every call went straight to voicemail. "Figures," he muttered, slamming the phone down. They had disappeared the moment things went south, leaving him to deal with the fallout alone. By evening, the guards informed him that his court hearing was scheduled for the next morning. The night in the holding cell was nothing short of miserable. The bed was cold, the walls damp, and his thoughts raced endlessly. One of his cellmates, an older man with a thick accent, chuckled when Danel explained his situation. "You messed with the guards. Rookie mistake. They'll make an example out of you," the man said, shaking his head. "An example? Over a bottle?" Danel asked, still in disbelief. The man shrugged. "You're in Britain, mate. It's not about the bottle. It's about what it represents." Danel didn't sleep. By the time morning came, he looked exhausted, his usual carefree attitude buried under layers of anxiety. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, tourists, and locals filled the benches, whispering and snapping pictures as Danel was escorted to his seat. His lawyer whispered last-minute advice, but Danel barely heard it over the pounding in his ears. The prosecution wasted no time tearing into him, calling his actions reckless, disrespectful, and a stain on the dignity of a centuries-old tradition. Donnell wanted to speak up, to defend himself, but his lawyer advised him to stay silent. Then came the witness, a frail, elderly man who spoke with a calm yet cutting precision. This young man's actions, the man began, his voice carrying through the silent room, were not just foolish. They insulted the values and pride of our nation. The Royal Guard represents more than just ceremonial tradition. It's a symbol of who we are. The weight of his words settled over the courtroom. Donnell shifted uncomfortably in his seat, guilt creeping into his chest. He hadn't thought about the bigger picture. To him, it had been a moment of fun, but now he realized the depth of his mistake. When the judge delivered the verdict, it felt like the air had been sucked out of the room. 30 days in custody and a £5,000 fine, the judge said, his tone firm and unyielding. Donnell's jaw dropped. 30 days? For a bottle? Yeah, his lawyer leaned over and whispered, it could have been worse. But Donnell wasn't sure how. As he was escorted out of the courtroom, the flashes of cameras were blinding. Reporters shouted questions and microphones were shoved toward him. His face was everywhere, on headlines, social media, and memes that were spreading like wildfire. Standing on the courthouse steps, he glanced at the cameras, his face a mix of bitterness and defeat. With a weak, dry smile, he muttered, "Well, I guess I made history." But it wasn't the kind of legacy he'd ever wanted to leave. What would you have done in Donnell's shoes? Was the punishment fair or too harsh? Share your thoughts in the comments and let us know if you faced a similar situation. Don't forget to like and share. Your opinion matters. This story is meant to shed light on important issues and inspire change.